Hi everyone, this is Arti Di Rosario, naturopath at Guts of the Matter. Today I thought we'd take a quick trip backwards and have a little chat about the three main macronutrients that form part of our food. So essentially, any food that we eat has three main components that we use to actually create and build our bodies. There are other components to food, which I'll discuss as well. But the main parts that we focus our attention on are the carbohydrates, the proteins, and the fat. The parts that we pay a little bit of attention to, but not as much, is the water content of our food and the fiber content of our food. I'm going to stick with the three main macronutrients for today. While the other two are important, they don't actually provide energy or building blocks or anything that we can physically use to grow our bodies. So, with carbohydrates, the main purpose of us needing carbohydrates is to provide us with energy, to do our work, for our cells to work, our muscles to propel us forward, our eyes to see, our ears to hear, etc., etc. With protein, we use protein for healing and repairing any breaks or tears or damage that's been caused to our cells, or creating new cells when the ones we currently have are too old to work well anymore. And then we have fats, which again are incredibly important in helping to build cells, new cells, especially when it comes to our brain and our spinal cord, our nervous system. They rely heavily on fat to work efficiently, to conduct messages up and down our body, from our brain to our heart, from our brain to our hand, brain to our foot. But also, fat is really important to keep us full. It helps us feel satisfied. It helps us fill up our belly, and it's a really good source of nutrient storage or energy storage. It also helps bind toxins. So when our body comes across a toxin that it doesn't know what to do with, it kind of files it away for later, in the hopes that it will come across a solution at some point. It's kind of like a two-heart basket. And this two-heart basket is actually made up of fat. So the fat is where we store toxic or harmful materials that we just don't know how to process. So this is important when it comes to losing weight. This becomes a really interesting piece of information, because also emotionally we store a lot of things within our cells, and as we release fat from our body, we're releasing those toxins and we're releasing those emotional memories that have been written into our cells that we've not dealt with or processed previously. So I thought that was really, really fascinating. So of course, protein and fat keep us full for a much longer time. Fiber, when blended with carbohydrates, will help to keep us satisfied for a bit longer. Carbohydrates make us really happy because they give us that quick boost of energy, but they're kind of shorter lived than protein and fat. Fat is the longest lived, most satiating type of macronutrient, which is why it works really well in your low carb, high fat diets, because the more fat you eat, the less you're looking for other foods to eat. You're fuller for longer, in other words. And of course, protein is essential just to be able to keep healing and repairing and making sure everything is running smoothly. This is where we kind of get into the discussion of whether carbs are an essential component in our diet, or can we live without them, or can we live with very little of them. And this is where two very strong camps of thought come into play. We have the whole food plant-based camp, which believes that our main diet should be really high carb based, with a medium amount of proteins and very little fat. And then we have the really low carb camp, where your ketos and paleos and banting people live. And this camp believes that we can actually run our body on ketones for energy, which come from fat, as opposed to carbohydrates and glucose energy, which tends to cause quite a bit of inflammation and quite a bit of illness, together with giving us that energy. So, yeah, my personal belief is every body is made differently, and every body type needs a different type of food at a different time of its life. And there's a concept called personalized nutrition, and that's what I believe people need to aim for. We generally tend to know what our bodies need. We know how we like to eat, we know what makes our bodies feel good. And when you go armed with this knowledge into your nutritionist or your naturopath or your dietitian, you're sort of helping them understand what kind of food is important for your body to function. However, having said that, it is possible to change, and have your body adapt to eating a different kind of diet as well. I hope you found this useful. Have a good one.